Yo guys, welcome back to the channel. Let's just get right to the crawling because I know that's what you guys want to see. So this is the new Redcat 1/18th Ascent, and I just got it today and took it out of the box, did a couple little mods to it, charged up the battery, took it out here to one of my favorite spots where I normally run 10 scales, and I was kind of blown away by the performance of this little guy. So I'll tell you what I did. Pretty basic stuff. When I ordered the truck, I ordered from Redcat, I ordered the brass portal weights for the front, and then off of Amazon I picked up a set of Injora brass beadlock wheels, 1-inch wheels, and these Injora King Trekker tires. So the tires are 58 millimeters that are on the truck here, and the stock ones are they're called 60 millimeter from Redcat, but they measure, at least mine measured closer to 61. These Injora tires are labeled as 58 millimeter. They measure closer to 57, so these are a decent amount smaller than the stock ones, but I had zero issues, and you can see the terrain I'm running this in is pretty extreme for an 18 scale. But I had no issues with clearance. The portal axles on this little rig do offer a ton of clearance, so I had no complaints with that. And I kind of feel like the slightly smaller tire actually benefits this truck because it does keep the center of gravity a little bit lower, and you don't run into any issues with tire rub on the body. And then also just in terms of gearing, I know a couple other YouTubers had tested this and they complained that the gearing is a little bit tall. And I do agree. I think a slightly lower gear ratio would help this thing, especially with the stock motor. So I feel like you probably don't want to run out and put anything larger than the stock tires on this. I would actually recommend this size. I think 58 works extremely well. The taller the tire you put on this, the worse the gearing issue is going to become. And I don't want to even say it's an issue. It does fine. It would do a little bit better with a lower gear range. I'm hoping that I think they're going to come out with an overdrive, underdrive gears for these, for the ring and pinions. I think just doing an underdrive on the rear is probably going to be the path that I go, and that will essentially kind of lower the overall gear ratio a tiny bit, and I think that's going to help. I may actually try, speaking of motor, I didn't really have any major complaints. In this terrain, there was a lot of spots where you can get this thing just bound up, and in those situations the motor does stall out, but it's not, if it's a competition and you don't want to take a reverse, that's one thing, but just out crawling and having fun, it wasn't a big deal. If I did get it bound up a little bit, I would just kind of reverse, reposition, and just choose a slightly different line, and it was totally fine. Don't feel like you have to run out and replace the motor right away. Long term, I probably will try to find either a torquey or brushless motor. I mean, a torquey or brush motor, or just go to a brushless system. Just because I like to optimize kind of everything. And look, that was a super impressive climb. So I do want to just point out that the thing that really kind of impressed me with this truck the most was that the overall crawling experience was as good as I have with most of my 10 scale, even rigs that I've built up, like put a lot of money and time and effort in testing and tuning into. I was able to go out and have fun with this little truck I was out crawling for over an hour and a half, and I didn't want to stop. I just wanted to keep finding more challenging lines for this little rig, and it's just super fun. You can really it's precise enough where you could really take the time to work at an obstacle, and it's not going to just magically climb up everything. There are limitations, of course. I think this thing can be tuned even better. I don't have much done to it, and it's already impressing me. So I think just kind of shifting some of the items around inside. The receiver ESC right now is located at the back, which is the worst spot for it, so maybe even just shifting that up to the front could be as simple as that. The battery in this is in the stock position. I literally didn't do anything aside from the portal weights, wheels and tires. That's it. I didn't mess with the shock tuning, nothing. So this can definitely get even better. But yeah, the overall experience is just so good that it's really enjoyable. Like I said, you can just work at obstacles. It's very it's very precise. It kind of just does what you want it to do. If you just work at it, find the right lines. And this is the first time I'm driving this, so I don't really know all of its capabilities, or every rig kind of has its own little traits that you have to learn before you can really push it to its limits. And within a couple minutes, I was like, oh wow, I was really doing lines that I did not think it was capable of. And that's what makes it so much fun to drive. It's kind of like shocking sometimes where you're like, oh my god, I can't believe it did that. And a lot of it has to do with just how light a 1/18 rig is. And that's why I would kind of recommend against throwing all of the brass that you can at this. Like, I think that's a lot of people's kind of initial, response to setting up a small 18 scale is like, oh, we got to put brass, everything on it. And I would kind of, I would hesitate to do that right away. I would get out and run this and do as little as possible to get it to the performance level that you're looking for, especially based on what terrain you're driving it on, because the more weight you add to this, it is just going to make the motor struggle a little bit more. It's going to make the servo struggle a little bit more, and I'll talk about the servo in a minute. But yeah, pretty much I added in total 230 grams. Well, so when I weigh, it wasn't a full addition, but when I weigh, no, actually it was, now I think about it. Yeah, when I weigh the stock wheel and tire, one individual wheel and tire is 15 grams. The new ones are 55 grams, and then I added about 30 grams total of portal weight. But I didn't weigh the stock portal weight covers. I don't even think my scale would register those. Those tiny little plastic covers probably weigh maybe a gram and a half each. So in total, I added 230 grams, and the entire truck right now with the battery, weighs 660 grams. So I added like a third of the truck's weight just in brass down low on the wheels and tires. So adding, and I think it's fine. The way it is, the servo worked great. Motor worked great. Can they be better? Absolutely. It just depends on how much, money you want to invest in this. So I was really impressed as is. I'm going to try to avoid adding weight just for the sake of adding weight. Like I said, I think it's more important to shift around the weight that exists, or try to get rid of some weight if possible. Maybe get rid of the battery tray, mount the battery on one of the sliders, or I may even go with a smaller battery. This battery, I ran this over an hour and a half. I didn't measure the voltage when I got home, but I feel like I must have been close to running out, but this thing just seemed to go forever. So what my plan is I'm going to pick up a couple smaller batteries. I'd like to find a battery that just fits up on that front little tray that's not being used, and just Velcro it up there. And I think that's going to be a really good kind of weight redistribution. And I don't mind if this thing has a little bit, if I can get 45 minutes per battery, I'll just bring a spare battery. They're tiny, just throw one or two in your pocket and you can crawl for a very long time with that. So I think that's going to be my next mod on this, is just run a small battery up front, take the receiver, ESC, mount that on one of the sliders, and see if I can kind of get the weight balance a little bit better. I think that's going to help out a lot. But yeah, I don't want to go overboard with adding brass to this. If and when the stock links work fine, I may change the lower links to brass at some point. If I do change anything, it probably will be just adding a tiny bit more brass, but just very little bit, because I was pretty impressed with how this works as is. These tires hook up great. I guess it's kind of like a granite rock. I'm not a rock expert, but it seems like granite to me. And these King Trekkers, I think it's the S5 compound that Injora calls it now. Super grippy. Really no complaints. I don't even have these tires vented right now. They're just the stock foams. And I wasn't sure what I was doing with them long term, if I'm going to do different inserts. I was like, let me just slap them together and try them. And even unvented, they work completely fine. The added weight on the wheels and the portal axles really helped. I didn't drive it stock. I just kind of knew that I wanted to add more weight right away. And from reviews I've seen, and I've never had an RTR tire hook up well for me, so I kind of figured right off the bat I don't even want to waste my time running those. I'm sure they're okay, but you know, for these wheels and tires were 40 bucks. I don't mind spending a little extra money to have much better performance right out of the box. So they worked out great. And yeah, so the only complaints, not even a complaint, I took a couple really hard tumbles and the body does pop off on the front, but you can kind of just flex the front a little bit and snap it back in. I'd kind of rather have it pop off than have something crack or break, so I didn't mind that too much. I don't think it's going to be a major issue. Suspension wise, worked great, has great articulation, as you can see. I may experiment with just a little rubber band on the front shocks just to kind of compress them, keep them compressed a little bit. It does unload a little bit on the front when you're doing the steepest climbs. I think that could help a little bit, and that's kind of essentially a free mod. You just take a small rubber band and you just want to get those the right kind of resistance on that band for it to work well. So I may play around with that, but that's pretty much it, guys. Just wanted to show you this video, and stay tuned if you want to see more with the 18th Ascent. Thanks for watching. Catch you in the next one. Later.